Hello and welcome. I have the honor today to interview a longtime friend, an academic professional in the area of disability. She is actually one of the few experts in the East African region in this area. She is a member of Jaslika Consulting. This discussion is coming to you live from Nairobi, Kenya. I'm your session moderator, Naom Ondicho Machoka. I'm also an affiliate member of Jaslika Consulting. Our guest today is none other than Dr. Becky Isanda. Dr. Becky Isanda's background is on education, teaching, mentoring, and research, which actually form the core of our daily function. Her philosophy is borrowed from Kuldeep Singh's statement, which states, and I quote, "The illiterates of the 21st century will not be people who do not know to read and write, but those people who can learn and learn and learn." That actually sums up her beliefs. Her doctoral studies experimented on the use of instructional technology in enhancing literacy levels of deaf students in selected tertiary institutions in Kenya. Dr. Becky Isanda is currently a faculty member in Kenyatta University. She has experience of over 20 years in education and in disability matters. She's an international conference speaker and has got deep insights in the field of education. Dr. Becky Isanda has a passion to transform Kenyan youth and families, and her work to a large extent is focused on driving individuals and organizations from where they are and where they can be in order to answer problems that lie not only outside but even within. Dr. Becky Isanda, welcome to today's discussion. In your own words, can you tell us who Dr. Becky Isanda is? Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Naomi. I'm very excited to be joining you for this interview. And I'm equally excited that our friend is interviewing me. And a member too, that we share membership in a very robust research group, Jaslika. Thank you very much. I think you've already said whom I am, but I can add a little. I'm passionate, Becky Isanda is passionate about education. And I'm more passionate about special needs education. It is my area of expertise. And not just general special education. I've also gone deeper and started working with persons who have hearing loss, that is in the area of hearing impairments. And I'm also having expertise in sign systems. When I talk about sign systems, I'm talking about sign language, tactile, and also argumentative and alternative communication. I think sign language is known to many of us. Sign language, we use it to argument persons who have gotten hearing loss. For argumentative and alternative communication, we use it or argument persons who have lost their speech completely. They cannot be able to speak, we give them an alternative communication. For tactile, we give it to argument for persons who are deaf-blind. Actually, that is my area of specialization. This I do daily. This is what I do day to day in the university. But actually, when you come to the university, the first class that I receive students, I'm the first person to receive students in the university, and I teach them the first course in the university, which is development of special needs education. And also in level 2, I'm the first lecturer second year students meet, where I teach alternative, argumentative and alternative communication, because they are core units. Then when we go to the specialization, that is when I receive third years and I take away my group for specialization, and fellow colleagues also take in their other areas of specialization. So that is what I do. When I'm not teaching, like you have mentioned, I am in research. I'm in research, and I'm deeply involved in social sciences. But sometimes I've been able to go outside my comfort zone, and I've been able to conduct research, which I think we will discuss further. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Back to you,
Dr.
Naom.
Isanda, for that broad introduction of yourself. I am sure you're going to tell us much more about your area of specialization, but allow me to take you back to where you began it all. If you could kindly take us through your journey, how did you join the area of disability? I mean, is there something or someone that inspired you? Kindly.
Thank you very much, Naom. That's a very interesting question. It's going to take us down memory lane, but I think I'll try. I studied in the university. I joined the university in 1989, 90, that intake. And I joined to do applied sciences, which I studied in that year in 1990 to 91 and 92 and graduated in applied sciences. And then I joined Kenya Institute of Technology, KIST, Kenya Institute of Science and Technology, that is KIST, and worked with them for about a year. And in the second year, I visited a friend in Nairobi City in town, and I met her doing something I'd never seen before. Actually, it's now called sign language. And I was really interested. I wondered what the hell was that? And my friend told me that the young lady that they were talking to with was had a hearing loss, and they were using sign language. So that means I got to know what is sign language when I have my first degree. Then after that, I asked her, where can I learn this? And she informed me that I could be able to do it in Nairobi University. Remember, I'm already a professional and I've graduated and I'm a professional now. So I go back to my family, my mother. I wasn't married, I was a young girl, and I told her I would like to go back to school. Believe me, it was the hardest thing we've ever discussed with my mom, and she was very angry. She was frustrated and disappointed. She asked me, how can I send you to school? You read well, you finish well, you have a job, and now you want to tell me you want to read things about disabled people. I'm sorry to use that term, but that is what my mother used. But I didn't listen to my mother, and I decided to join Nairobi University, where I was able to study sign language. I was hoping that when I finished studying sign language, I would be able to work with the girl. Remember the girl who was with my friend? But actually, after 6 months of learning sign language intensely, when I went to look for the young girl, my friend informed me that she had left for America. So I was left with a language, a certificate, and nothing to do with it. But interestingly, as I continued searching and searching here in Nairobi, I found out that there were other persons with hearing loss, and they gathered or congregated in Nairobi, St. Andrew's Chapel here in Nairobi. So I moved from my church, Naomi, where I worship,
Yes.
and I worship with the Seventh-day Adventists on Saturdays, but I moved to St. Andrews to worship on Sundays so that I could be able to use my sign language skills. And that is where my journey began, because I met persons with hearing loss, and my life changed forever. And I think from the first Sunday, I made up my mind that I need to go back to school and I need to study. And it's from St. Andrews that I learned that I could be able to study more, and that there was an area known as special needs education. Actually, it's from St. Andrews I learned that. And after that, I actually dropped my applied sciences and my degree, put them aside, and started on a new journey of studying and working with persons with disability. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Daktari. And that's very interesting that you met somebody who had special needs, and out of your passion and desire, you felt you needed to do something, and you went back to school, and you learned sign language, which you are using to date. I am sure you're going to tell us much more, but in the interest of our listeners and viewers who are tuning in, kindly tell us something about the special needs education that you have talked about. What do we mean when we talk about special needs? How a little bit of some grounding will be of use to us. Thank you, Becky.
Thank you, Naom. Thank you for that question. It's also a question that I get excited to answer, because for a long time, actually, I also made the assumption that people understood when we talk about special education. I always assumed that people knew what we were talking about, but until recently, I can confirm many people think that we are talking about something special or something like that. But actually, special needs education, it is education that takes a diversion from regular education. Let's make an assumption in a small way that our viewers know what is regular education. Regular education is the form of education that we give to children that do not have exceptional needs. For example, if we put children in a classroom, we make an assumption that the whole cohort can be able to read, and they can be able to write, or they can be able to pronounce words according to the level they are, probably, let's say, preschoolers. We make an assumption that every preschooler that comes to school has the same characteristics as the other. For example, they can clap when the teacher has to clap. They can take an instruction to stand up or sit up and play. But now when we talk about special education, we are bringing in a special child, a child with exceptional abilities. For example, we may have a child that has physical disabilities. For a child with physical disabilities, maybe they are on a wheelchair, maybe they are on crutches, or they are on a caliber and boot. Or probably the child has no sight, or the child does not have hearing, or the child is autistic, and the like. I'll go through that probably later on some of the disabilities. So when we receive these children in the classrooms, then they need something different from what the regular teacher is offering. So for example, a child with physical disabilities, then we are saying that this child can be offered an adapted desk or an adapted seat so that he can be able to accommodate them in that classroom. Because probably due to the nature of disabilities, they may not be able to fit in a desk. Or if they need to sit continuously on their wheelchair, then it needs to be made adopted so that it can also take a desk position. So that is what special education offers. Special education offers a special teacher. It also offers special instruction and provisions like the wheelchairs, the canes, and the brailles. And even now we are offering technology. So it comes with adaptations, special provisions, and accommodations to be able to accommodate the children in the classroom. And when we talk about special education, we're not talking about bringing a child with special needs and just placing them in the classroom. Now we are talking about making special provisions, intentional. Thank you. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you for that explanation. It
Yes.
captures, we are able to understand who these children are and their special needs and the adaptations that have got to be made to accommodate them. Now, if we look broadly in the world, and maybe specifically in Kenya, are these people with special needs many? Do we have more women? Do we have more men who fall in this category?
Thank you. Thank you, Nam, for that question. Statistics on persons with disability has been one of the most controversial subjects. For example, in 2019 in Kenya, we had a census, and the census had a result after that. And as persons specialists in the area of disability, we were very excited because this is one of the few census in Kenya that personally I've been able to participate, because we were asked to put an article in the census questionnaire so that when the researchers or the team goes from home to home, homestead to homestead, they would be able to collect that kind of data. But to our surprise, we were not able to get very good data on how many persons with disability we have. And probably I would like to explain why. Let's start with data collection, for example. Disability is a very sensitive issue in Africa. We are Africans. So when you ask an African mother do you have a child who is disabled in your home? I think we all know what is the answer. First of all, probably because of we look at disability as a taboo, she's likely not to answer that question. And if she does, she's not going to answer that I have or I don't have. She's going to say, she's going to say we do not have, because it's not a comfortable subject, the subject that she wants to talk about. And it goes on and on. So as a result of that, this census did not give us the exact number of persons who have disability. However, then how do we work with persons with disability? We work with persons with disability using the World Health Organization. There's an organizational way they organize statistics for persons with disability. And after a lot of evidence-based research, an argument is made that in every population, 10% of persons in every population have a one or another form of disability. So we do the same in Kenya. Then we say that there are probably 4.7% persons with disability in Kenya, which gives us a number of about 4,700,000 persons with disability in our population. Then when it comes to prevalence, we have more men having, and that is evidence-based, that there are more men with disability than women. Again, this is because of the types of disability and the nature of disability. For example, even if we take only physical impairment, for example, more persons with disability have physical impairment because men are more involved in sports, and there are sporting accidents. Men drive more, they ride the motorbikes more and the bicycles. They do more of the hiking of the mountains and such. They do more of the construction work. They are more in the industries. They are more in mining, etc. As a result of that, due to the accidents they receive, then we have more men having more disabilities. But even now, when we're coming to hereditary and congenital disabilities, we also have more men, statistically, evidence-based, more men have disability than girls. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Isanda, for those statistics and that background info. It reminds me when I and you went to do a research in, if you remember, the disabled institution, and we were able to actually tell that quite a number of the students in that institution were male. That actually captures what you have just said. Now, you spoke earlier on about autistic children and about children of different types of disabilities. Maybe if you would expound on that, what are the disabilities, types of disabilities, and which are the most common?
Thank you very much. Now, disabilities are known to people. It's a norm. That is something people see a lot, but probably for purposes of our interview, I would love to classify disabilities into at least 11 or 12 categories. And if I fail to mention a specific disability, probably it lies in that subcategory that I'm about to mention. So we have, for starters, we have persons with visual impairments. This is a category that has absence of sight. Then we have the second one, persons with hearing loss. These are people with absence of hearing. Then we have the one that we've just given examples, physical impairments. That one is people with either you have upper limbs or lower limbs, or one of your limbs that is either missing or disfigured, or a form of deformity, either on your face or on the skull or on the organs, on the body parts. It could be on your fingers, on your toes, etc. That is what we are talking about. We may even have someone, half of their body has the disability and the other half doesn't have, or the upper or lower. Because sometimes we have people, when they are seated, you cannot be able to tell that they have a disability, but from the torso downwards, then you realize they are heavily disfigured. So we have physical impairments. We also have another category that is called health impairments, and that is the category where medical conditions fall. For example, people who have diabetes, people who have blood pressure, people who have hepatitis A and B, people who have different forms of cancer, people who have HIV and AIDS, people who have leukemia, people, heart diseases, head injuries, all those medical conditions that result to we call them health impairments. Then we have another category, which is autism. We also call another name for it is autism spectrum disorders. We call it like that because it's a very broad category, and it's intellectual. It affects the intellect. Children with autism are affected in the intellect. They may not be able to be educable, but not all of them. Some are educable, and they also do not form speech. We also have another category, which is communication disorders. Some people call them speech and language disorders. These are a category of persons that do not have speech, or it has not formed completely. Then the other category we have are children who are gifted and talented. It is another category that falls here. And I would like, for purposes of our audience, for them to understand that a child who is gifted and talented is not equivalent to a child who takes position 1 in school, or a child that when we attend speech and the speech day celebrations, that a child is called one after another, like Naom Ondicho, allow me to use you, a trophy for geography, a trophy for history, a trophy for science. That is not being gifted and talented. That is a child who is able, who learns well, and due to what is the favor of being educated and can read well or also master that content. We are talking of children who are gifted probably in an area in mathematics to a very high level, that if a teacher is teaching mathematics for standard 2, the child can be able to perform mathematics for maybe standard 5 and do it very, very well. Or a child who is very eloquent in a language, and it's not, most of the time, gifted and talentedness is not taught. It's just nurtured. It is inborn. It's innate. Or a child who is athletic, who is a good athlete, like our athletes from the Rift Valley, with all respect, that is being gifted and talented in sports. Or you can play an instrument very well. That is being gifted and talented. We also have other areas like specific learning disabilities. This is again another category whereby children have specific difficulties. For example, a child can be good in all the subjects that are taught in the primary school, but they have a problem with handwriting. They can be good in the other subjects, but they are poor in mathematics. They can be good in all other subjects, but they cannot be able to comprehend, they cannot be able to speak. We have had children also who can speak very well, but they cannot write what they can speak. That is what we call specific learning disabilities. We also have another category known as deaf-blind. For the deaf-blind category, it is a category whereby the deafness and the deafness and the sight are, we say, concomitant, meaning they are 1 in 1. Example is the way you mix water and milk to make a cup of tea. You cannot be able to separate the water, and you cannot be able to separate the milk. So that is what we call concomitant in special needs, and it becomes deaf-blind. We also have another category, which is emotional and behavioral disorders. And this is a category whereby people have conduct disorders. Conduct disorders. For example, children that miss school without a reason, truancy, absenteeism, vulgarity, children that play stunts in school, children that take what is not theirs, children that lie, children that fight, bullying, fighting, children that call others names, etc. That is what emotional and behavioral disorders. Then the other category is attention deficit hyperactive disorder. This is a disability whereby children cannot be able to concentrate on one thing or be in one position and one thing for a long period. They have low concentration, a very low concentration span. We also have a very large category of children with disabilities known as children at risk. Children at risk is a very large category that includes children on the streets, children who are orphaned, children who had households, children who have refugee status, children living in camps, children who have been displaced, orphaned children due to HIV and other complications, children who practice prostitution and children whose parents practice prostitution, children who live on their own, etc. So it's a very large category of children with special needs. So these are the children that make the bracket of children with special needs. Back to you, Naomi. Thank you.
Thank you for that categorization. I found it very interesting that children who are otherwise normal in your last categorization, but they are in refugee camps and what have you, are categorized as under disability. Isn't that interesting?
Thank you. Thank you, Naom. Yes, it's very interesting, actually, including children who are gifted and talented. Remember, children gifted and talented also, per se, they are normal. Probably I would like to start with children who are gifted and talented, then I would go to children at risk. Children who are gifted and talented, as I've already mentioned, they are only talented in one area. So, for example, you have a child in your classroom and they are talented in either writing very well, or they are very talented in playing an instrument, or they are talented very, very well in calculating some mathematics, etc. When you look at such a child, their characteristics then are skewed towards the higher end only in the area that they are gifted and talented. So when you come to other areas, then they are usually either at a regular or sub normal, meaning a little lower. I'll give an example with a lot of respect. Our athletes, you've watched our athletes when they go and run in the foreign countries, and they run in an exemplary way, and you've seen them bring us all the awards, 1, 2, 3, the gold, the bronze, and what they have done that. But when it comes to the interview, I think you and I have watched the difficulty they have in trying to explain how did you perform? How were you able to prepare for such a race? You live in Africa, Kenya, and then you come to Berlin and you're able to run in these big events and you're able to do very well. You've seen the difficulties. You've seen the difficulties in trying just to explain, even to just say like, I'm excited that I've won this race. So it's the same thing we have in our classroom. So as a result of that, we have teachers calling these children names like, you can only write. You can only recite a poem. You can only play well in the field. You can only run and you can only play an instrument. As a result of that, those children have problems relating to teachers. They also challenge teachers. Such children also challenge teachers in the area they are good in. As a result of that, they have behavior disorders. They're always throwing tantrums. They also pressurize themselves. Like, if I can be able to speak very well, why can't I be able to read what I can speak? If I can be able to calculate mathematics better than my teacher, how comes I cannot be able to do English well? So as a result of that, these children struggle a lot being able to get the equilibrium, a good balance between what they are able to do and what they are not able to do. And as a result of that, a majority of them drop out of school because they keep making the teachers feel like they are better than the teachers. And as a result, teachers will push them out and so that they do not have them. Thank you. Then when it comes to the group for children with at risk, these children are categorized among children with disabilities, and this was done by the United Nations in a convention whereby Kenya ratified the convention. It is on the rights of persons with disability. And those children were included because, for example, let's take children with refugee status. These are children who miss the basic needs. The basic needs are absent. They don't get the right of food, the right of education, the right of healthcare, the right to survive. Some of them just die young or depending on the treatment they get. So they are in this category for purposes to be protected. The same to children on the streets. Children on the streets are categorized here because, again, they miss the basic, love. Actually, all these children I've talked about basically do not receive love. They have no parenting. They have no homes. They don't have access to health. They don't have access to food. They don't have access to education, etc. So that is why the United Nations put them in the group of children with disabilities so that they could be able to get a protection umbrella, because Before, people know about them, but now it's a little louder on their behalf that they have been categorized and put where that they can be taken care of. Thank you. Back to you now.
Thank you. That may be, I now understand why they have been categorized that way. In our
Yes.
traditional African societies, depending on which part of Africa you come from, in some of our societies, the disabled children was scorned at. And actually, if you got a child who was disabled, there are some who threw them to the forest or who killed them. I don't know whether there are any other myths surrounding disability that you would share with us.
Thank you very much now. Yes, there are a lot of myths. There's a lot of stereotyping on children with disability. I think we are in our 21st century, and I still know that it's going on. This is again evidence-based. We have a lot of communities still stereotyping persons with disability. And actually, it's not just communities. I probably would want to bring the light more on in our educational institutions, because that is the area I'm in, and it is the area that I concentrate on a lot. When a family receives a child with disability, the family is ostracized. The mother, for one, she is informed that she's the one who has brought the disability. And in most cases, her husband will leave her, and that means she starts a new journey with a child with disability and without the support of the father. And if the father of the child was the sole breadwinner, then that creates more challenges, because this means then that the mother has to start very quickly finding out how to fend for her child with disability. And also, if she has other children, it becomes even a bigger challenge. So quickly, disability brings a brokenness in coherent homes, because most of the male figures then abandon their support and for being part of that family. Then there are stereotypes associated with just having a child with disability. The in-laws will, of course, be on the mother's case and remind her she has brought a bad omen to their family. So again, you may find that apart from her husband leaving her, she may be chased from, actually more than common, she's chased from the home so that the family doesn't get that disability per se, because that is what they think so. Then they also think that she should get rid of the child with disability. We have communities in Kenya who do approach the mother and propose that the child is taken and thrown in the forest, and then she comes back to start a new life. There are families in, there are communities in Kenya who also believe that if they would sacrifice a child with disability, then it can cleanse them. It can cleanse them for different things, with all respect, including politicians. Politicians, even in Kenya, and it's evidence-based, and it's been even in the local news and international news that our politicians have gone to where a child with disability was albinism to be killed so that they're able to drink the blood so that they can win elections. Those are myths. Those are myths, and children with albinism have been targeted for very many years. Also, children, when persons get, some stereotypes include persons who think that children with HIV can also cleanse them, etc. There are also communities believe that it is a waste of money, it is a waste of resources to invest in a child with a disability. So as a result of that, again, the mother is compounded with all this kind of everyone is looking at your child the way they look. So that means there's stigma, a lot of stigma, and a lot of discrimination. But the stereotypes are stronger than the knowledge in Africa, whereby when a family also makes up their mind that they want to take care of their child and support their child, but they don't have community support. They don't have community support. So we still have issues with stereotyping. We have issues that even as we still do not accept children with disabilities in our classrooms. We have teachers who think that it is a waste of time and their resources offering an education to a child with disability. We have head teachers who turn away parents with a child with disability. We have even hospitals, we have even spiritual centers that turn away persons with disability, because they look at it like, if we have we are a faith-based organization and our God answers our prayers, then how comes we have a person with disability in our midst? It means God does not answer our prayers. So many congregations would prefer not to have a congregant with a disability. So we do have stereotypes, and even we have people, they wouldn't, even public vehicles that turn away persons with disability and yet the person with disability would want to go to work, but they say it's a bad omen to carry them in their vehicles as passengers. So I would go on and on. It is an issue. Thank you very much now.
Thank you. Thank you. With all those challenges, Becky, I was going to ask you whether there are organizations that address these issues, but you have rightly indicated some of them. There are churches, there are schools, there are that address these issues, but still there are challenges. And I don't know, as an individual, then what drives you? What keeps you in this profession where there are stereotypes, where there are challenges? You know, what makes it easy for you to keep on working with the people with the special needs, and especially in the area of hearing impaired?
Thank you. Thank you, Naom. Thank you very much for that question. Despite the challenges, I'm actually still very excited about working with children with disabilities as I was over 25 years ago. I'm still very excited, and I will let you know why. Now, if I'm able to make a difference to only one child with a disability, I'll show you right now the ripple effect. When I was in the classroom, before I joined the university, I worked directly with the children and their parents, especially children with hearing loss. When I worked in Karen Technical, and it is an institute for only boys and girls with hearing loss. And when we took in a boy or a girl with hearing loss, this is how our journey started. It was a boarding facility. So we realized that when we took in a boy, whether he afforded the school fees or not, we already lifted the burden away from the family, meaning that a mother or a parent or a caregiver or a sponsor could go and vent for the other children. So already we had lifted that kind of a burden. But not only that, we had started a journey that we would enlighten that family, because we were able to educate the families on how to support their child, teach them about hearing loss, give them free classes on special education, support them on how to understand about the hearing aids and how they could clean them, how they could make them better as they place them in the ears of their children, and how often they would use, because before, the medical facilities would just give a hearing aid to a child. But for us, we were offering an education for the family and for the child. And we realized that when a child was in Karen for 3 years, the family became the burden became lighter, because they had a new friendship with us. They had somebody else they would be able to talk about disability. We could receive phone calls even in the night from home. A mother wants to say, my son is on holiday. Today he went to town, he didn't come back. What do I do? Because he has a hearing loss. And you see, with that kind of talking, it means the family had a new counselor that they could be able to talk to, and a new shoulder that they could be able to lean on. We could also be able to link families to assessors and to the chief if they needed help from the chief, even to police station, even to schools, because it's a linkage of professionals that we are linking, even with the community. Like, for example, when there are discipline cases in the community, we prefer to talk to chiefs than taking our boys and girls to the police station, because they will not be able to get support at the police station. Then we could also try, I'm a member of the the family would learn sign language. So this member of the family, we could, for example, say, so-and-so is involved in a dispute, can you go and solve that dispute? So that is how we worked, and I realized over a period of time, we were creating linkages in communities for persons with disability, especially in the area of hearing loss, that would otherwise not be possible. And then the family started getting excited. We would also link them up with the spiritual centers, so that again we would offer the spiritual center a position that we teach somebody in the spiritual center sign language, so that this person would also be able to attend service if they're interested in. And this again became a broader community, and the family, both the family and the person with disability started integration. We started integrating them in and creating an inclusive society. We would even encourage families, do you have a wedding? Yes, go with him. Then they would ask us, what is he going to do in our wedding? And we'll tell them, he's going to be excited, he has eyes to see. And from a distance, he can be able to hear some sounds, and if people are dancing, he can also follow dance moves and etc. And I realized how brightened, especially mothers, they would be so excited. And for me now, that was enough. It was enough. The excitement I would see on mothers. We had daddies, a few coming to Karen, and they would say, I didn't know my son can be able to do this. I didn't know my son would live a normal life. I didn't know he can wash dishes. Because we're able also to rehabilitate the students. Remember, families that think that if a child has disability, it means they don't have eyes, ears, hands, feet. Every part of them is absent. But we could correct it and say that your son just has a hearing loss, meaning that all his other faculties are functional. He can be able to wash dishes, he can slash around the compound, he can wash the family car, he can be sent to the market, even with a list. He can be able to do that so long as there are prices in the shop. So for me, if I'm able to make a difference now to one child with disability, it has a multiple effect. Because in Karen, we proceeded also to working with the industry. We went ahead to seek attachment on their behalf and further even jobs the careers. And it was exciting. All the employers would say, nobody has ever explained to us about hearing loss. Nobody has ever explained to us that these people can work. And remember, persons with hearing loss now have a very good concentration. They don't have distractions. They don't hear, meaning that they don't have distractions. So if you give them due attention, they will work, so long as you explain it very, very well. So for me, if I'm able to put one person with disability on the pedal and there's a ripple effect, I think I've done my job, and it still makes me very happy. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. For a long time in Kenya, the church, and more specifically the Salvation Army Church, has been known to be pro special needs people. In fact, where I stay here in Thika, we have Joytown Special Schools that were begun by the Salvation Army Church. But from what you're saying, the government seems to be doing something, because that was a government institution where you are working in, and individually you are making a contribution. I'm only just wondering whether is what the government doing enough, or is there something else that they can do to bolster the need of people with special needs? What could you want to see happening so that these people's lives can be made easier? Thank you, Becky.
Thank you, Naom. Thank you very much. And I'm glad you mentioned the Salvation Army, and it's thumbs up for them. I need to mention in this forum that Salvation Army was the first spiritual congregation or organization. They're the founders of special needs education in Kenya. I need to put it very clear, because we acknowledge them. And they're still heavily committed in working with persons with disability, especially in the area of visual impairment and physical impairments. They still have a very strong role to the role they are playing is still recognized, and they still do it. However, I would like to mention why probably they may not be very much able to work now, it is because of what we are calling inclusivity. Inclusivity, one, we are trying to remove children with special needs now from special institutions to inclusive institutions. Inclusive education encourages that the children learn with other children. So what the church is offering is special units, and then so that is now we are moving from that phase to inclusion, from segregating persons with disabilities for them being in particular areas on their own, like in special schools, special congregations, but moving them to inclusive settings because we have realized they are part of a community. They are not a community of their own. Number two, another thing about the spiritual organizations, they had the philosophy of charity. Again, we are moving from the philosophy of charity, giving people things because you think they need help or they are in need, and moving to where persons with disability can be able to be independent, to be on their own, giving them an education so that they can be able to do things for themselves than the community. That waking up, I'm a mother with disability, I just go to church, it gives me some food, some clothes, and something else, then I walk back home. Again, tomorrow, I go back. So I needed to make that clear. What is the government doing then? First of all, the special education has been in Kenya from time immemorial, and it has passed the 4 stages. The first stage of special education in Kenya from independence was isolation. And this is in line with what the whole world had, that persons with disability were not known. So they were isolated in homesteads, isolated on roadsides, isolated. In fact, if some people got them, they would throw them away. That was the stage of isolation and nothing to do with them. The second stage is segregation, where the church comes in. It was able to pick persons with disability from the community, but segregate them, maybe in the churches or in schools that they had. Before then, there are no schools, but they were able to keep them in children's homes or secure homes. They would be able to work, and no education was not offered, but they would offer clothing, they would offer food, they would offer shelter and protection, care and protection. Then the third stage is integration. In the integration stage is where an education started being offered. And all these stages were being followed also by international laws and also the local laws. The international laws are very, very clear that persons with disability have a right. They have a right to human life. They have a right to an education. They have a right to medical care. They have a right to many of the services that are provided. They have those rights. Equally in Kenya, the Constitution of Kenya, 2010, also has rights that protect persons with disability. They have the same rights affirmed there. We also have the laws such of persons with disability, 2003, also the law that is a whole law, our policy on persons with disability, and I would highlight just a few of what is in those laws. We also have the Children's Right, 2001, that also protects children with disability. We also have the international laws that Kenya has ratified, like the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability that Kenya has ratified. We also have inclusive laws that expect of us that we provide inclusive settings for persons with disability. So to make it simpler, what is Kenya doing and where are we? Kenya introduced inclusive education in 1978. I think that will surprise you. In 1978, the rest of the world and Kenya in agreement signed a treaty that we would practice inclusive education, meaning that we would include children with disability in our classrooms and include a special teacher and include special provisions. Kenya also signed a treaty alongside other UN countries that by the year 2015, there would be a special teacher in each and every primary school in Kenya. Kenya did that. Now, where are we in those kind of laws? We have laws, and they are very good laws. We have a problem now with implementation. We have a problem with implementation, and it is because of one simple thing: we don't have the goodwill. We don't have the goodwill, I'll repeat. Because if you have laws and they are stipulated very clearly, we celebrate Disability Day every year, and we are not able to tick out of the checklist. We actually do not make a step forward, because persons with disability do need the goodwill of the government. They need the education soldiers to work with the government agents. They need soldiers in the health, so that when persons with disability go to the healthcare, they are able to receive healthcare. When they're in their community, for example, they're supposed to get, in every population, if you employ people, a third should be set aside for persons with disability now. I do not know of an organization that has been able to do that. Where I work in Kenyatta University, they have tried. We have persons with disability employed in different sectors. However, they do not make 30% of the population. If you look at the transport sector, I do not know of a vehicle in Kenya that is public, that has a structural support system for persons with disability, even one. Even the school transports do not have that kind of support. When it comes to architectural, we have in the laws that houses are supposed to be built in a manner that they are disability friendly. For example, the switches should be lower so that a person on a wheelchair can be able. Buildings in Kenya now are supposed to have both stairs and ramps. But I know that you've not seen that. And if they don't have ramps, then they should be able to have a lift, so long as they have more than two-story and three, but we don't have that. When it comes to our schools, we still have head teachers turning parents away, yet every child has a right to education. We still do not have the government, the capitation that they give to parents and to children with disability. We still do not have that capitation reaching all the children, and the capitation is very little. Now, the government of Kenya educates children with Kenya shillings 3,900. That is what is given for a child with disability. You would agree with me, we've both been teachers for a long time, that might not be able to support very, very clearly. Also, some monies are set aside for sporting activities. But now, if you put money for sporting activities for children to move from Joytown and be able to move to Limuru or to Nakuru for sports, then you must be able to provide a vehicle that can support carrying children with disability to Naivasha. So again, then we'll ask, during the sports, how is this money spent? If you put money in the music festival, and you also put money in the drama, again, you have to make sure that our children with disability also are able to enjoy props and things that support disability. So we go back again to the goodwill. When we also talk about teachers, the government has been trying to train teachers. The university I work in, Kenyatta University, also trains teachers in the area of special needs. Again, when we graduate them, we do not have support of the government agency, the Teacher Service Commission, to post the teachers according to their specialization. For example, we train teachers in the area of autistic spectrum disorders. When they graduate after 4 years now, we are expecting that this teacher is posted in a school for children with autism spectrum disorders, but that isn't the case. We find the students coming back and they have been posted to a regular school. So again, when we look at that as educators, we realize that we have spent, of course, it's also government money because they sponsor the students. We, together with the government, have trained our students for 4 years, and they are posted to where their skills will not be used. So I would go on and on now about problems of persons with disability. But I hope I've been able to give a little overview of what is happening. We have the laws. It's the goodwill that we do not have. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Isanda. I really appreciate that comprehensive response that you have given, that actually policies are in place right from the international level to the local level, but however, when it comes to implementation, there are challenges, and you have enumerated quite a number of challenges. Let me quickly say that it's a presidential directive under the performance contracting that some positions be set aside for people with disabilities. But the extent to which that has been done is again questionable. And I'm glad you are saying the institution you work for, Kenyatta University, has tried. May I also say that my institution where I work has tried, but yet a lot more needs to be done. I will not end this conversation before I ask you about your research interests in the area of disability. Kindly share with us what you have done in as far as research is concerned on the area of disability, and especially your PhD thesis. In a summary, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, research is an area that is deep in my heart. I love research because I'm an educational professional, and when we get problems in the society, we know that we cannot be able to solve these problems if we do not go back to the society and find out how we can be able to solve. And as professionals and research professionals, we know that the answers are not found with us professionals now. The answers are found in the community, and that is why I engage heavily in research. My doctoral thesis, I still looked at an area that is very dear to me, hearing loss. Children with hearing loss now do not acquire speech unless they were born with speech and then acquired the hearing loss later. But a majority of persons with hearing loss do not have speech. As a result of that, I do not want to go into the science of speech, but you know that if you do not hear, it means it's very difficult to pick language. Now our children pick language when they hear another child talking. If a child is even 9 months, they will just say mama, the other one will say mama, or they will hear their mother calling daddy, then the child will repeat. But here is a child who will not have an opportunity to do that now, meaning that children with hearing loss live in a silent world. They live in a silent world. However, despite living in a silent world now, they still are expected to survive in the hearing world. That is what is interesting. They still have to survive because the world is hearing, but they live in a silent world. So why did I come with with what I studied? I looked at their performance in schools, especially from Karen, where I worked. When every year, when results were announced of how technical institutions perform, actually there are times we would not be graded now because our students had done dismally poor in theory subjects. But when you look at the trade practicals, they had distinction 1, 2, and 3. But when it comes to the trade theories, then we didn't get a score. And for a long time, we had meetings with the ministry and Kenya National Examination Council. And for a long time, they were not understanding why our children could be performing such in a dismal way. So I decided that if I get an opportunity, then I would be able to find a way that I can be able to improve these poor literacy skills. So my research looked at using instructional technologies. And before even I go to that, let me say what instructional technologies are. There are assistive technologies such as the canes, such as the braille, such as the wheelchair, hearing aids, those are assistive. The walking cane, they are assistive. But when you come to instructional technologies, then this is technology that can be able to aid a teacher to be able to support a child in the classroom. Either they can be able to using technology, they can be able to make a child either write better. Let's say a child now has no limbs. They can be able to now use a computer. You see, they can be able to use a computer to type using an overhead put around their head with a pointer, and they can type on the keyboard. They can also have screen read things that can read for them on their behalf. They can have voiceovers. They can also have technologies that can be able to change. Like now we have technologies that can change this speech of mine now into sign language. So that if there's an audience that is interested, it is changing for them into sign language. That is an instructional technology. Now even texting. I want to brag here that the texting that many people are enjoying now is an invention for the deaf. Texting is an invention for the deaf because they have poor grammatical issues. So texting came with the function of T9 so that they could be able to autocorrect. And it can also give them choices so that they can be able, it can be able to give them choices so that, like, let's say you want to write act. I get activate, it will bring act, it can bring action, it can bring all those kind of synonyms so that the student can be able to choose. So texting that everyone is enjoying is for the person with hearing loss. Even Abraham Lincoln, when he talked the inventions about bells and the like, a bell was invented for deaf people, so that it could, the singer could make a very loud noise so that they could be able to hear, because they're able to hear very, very, very loud noises. So those are the kind of instructional technology that we are using, including this technology that we are using, including captionings, the ones you see below television and below videos, etc. All those are instructional technologies. Even a cell phone is an instructional technology, because with the software, you can text an email. A deaf person can send an email. They can be able to receive a feedback. You see, it doesn't need speech. You see, etc. WhatsApp is an instructional technology. Instagram is an instructional technology. And I would go on. The television is an instructional technology. So I would go on and on. So when I looked at the way the deaf students are performing dismally, then I experimented on these instructional technologies, how they could be able to enhance their literacy skills. So what did I find out from that? I've already, I think, preempted that when we looked at their former results, they were not performing well. That I've already mentioned that. But when I took students over 3 months using instructional technologies, I worked together with Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, KICD Curriculum Development. I was given 2 research assistants from there. So when I developed this, the software that we needed, together with the teachers in Karen, 2 English teachers in Karen, and we prepared English lessons using the instructional technologies, that is using the desktops. So we were able to put the programs for the students, and every English lesson, we were to use the programs. And our results were favorable, because one, students with hearing loss have no interest now in many things because they don't hear. But remember now, they were seeing videos, a lot of videos. We encouraged heavy use of their hearing aids. Remember that if they're able to insert the hear aids, they can be able to hear even mild function. And then we were also captioning the programs. There was captioning, real-time captions. So we realized that we were able to get their attention. That is number one. And I think that is important to every teacher. We were also able to help the students concentrate longer, which is also good for a teacher, that students can sit and enjoy classes longer. Number 3, the students were able to work on their own, because that is exciting for a deaf teacher who who has to put in so much trying to teach a student individually. But here, students now who are excited, you go to a student, you realize they have even moved to the next lesson. They are not even, because they have already enjoyed this first one. Then we also realized students could be able to test themselves. You get a small test after the video they have watched or whatever we had prepared the lesson, and they're able to answer on their own. It was even more exciting when they realized they can even mark, the computer can be able to mark and give them results immediately. And as a result of that, the research confirmed that students with hearing loss can be able to increase their literacy skills using instructional technologies. That is what my research was up to. And up to now, for example, now today in the present world, Naomi, you know that my research is very relevant right now. It is very relevant because that is what I did a few years ago, and that is what is current now. So my hope is that it is a research that can be removed from our shelf, and it can be able, and I'm trying to do that with the KICD, despite the hiccups, which again, I hope you understand, and bureaucracies, that there is something that is somewhere that it can be able to support children with hearing loss to learn better. So that is what my research was about. I've also carried other researches, and some of them now, you know, that we have done with you these researches. We've also worked with you on children, on value-based education, and we worked on children at risk. Now you know that the children we worked with were at risk. We were in, yes, thank you. We were at 3 locations for purposes of research. You know that we not mention the places, but we've worked several places with you and worked with children at risk in value-based education. Even positive deviance, we met children with disability. And also when we worked with the Canadian organization, remember?
Yes.
When we went to the refugee camp, we also were working with persons with disability, less privileged. We met children with refugee status. We met orphaned children. We met children who have been exposed to war. We met children who have been traumatized. We met children who are living on their own. Some of them are separated from their families. Some are orphaned. Some are heading household. We also have been involved with you in research in Laikipia. You remember? In Laikipia, we also worked with children with disabilities, and it is an area that is very dear to me. But I would like to say the following, because I have an opportunity, that I note with concern that a lot of funded researchers are not skewed towards children with disability. So it's an appeal that I would like to make, that when sponsors come with proposals that they want us to make, you probably will find a proposal having a line, and you see, and we'll be working with the girls and children with disabilities. It's also good to remind them that children with disabilities first are girls. The first are girls, then they have the disability. So it would be really in order if we would have researchers being sponsored that, for example, read that we'll be looking at gender-based violence on girls with disabilities. Because most of the time they read will be working on girls with who have been exposed to gender-based violence and children with disabilities. So for me, I'm hoping that disability does not play in the second league, but plays in the first league. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, thank you. Just out of curiosity, I hope that you have published your research findings. They're very interesting, so that they can be shared with the world out there with a view to assisting children with hearing impairments. Might you?
Yes, Naomi, thank you very much. I have published some of them. I've not finished publishing, but I have, even for my master's, it was also an experimental. For master's, it was still an experiment. I looked at the same area, but for this time, I invented a program using captioning. Again with Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, so that the children could be able to use captions under their words, because we realize that when we say the teacher to speech, we realize sometimes the teacher speeches, maybe different teachers will speak differently. So when I looked at those kind of problems that the children face in the classrooms, for example, we encourage that a child with hearing loss does not change teachers often. But sometimes the teacher may leave in the middle of the semester, and then the child has to start getting used to the lip movements of a new teacher. So my research was mitigating these kind of problems when there's an absent teacher, teachers with different pronunciations, teachers working long hours. Another area I like researching on is teacher motivation. And you realize that teachers who work with children with special needs now work for very long hours because they have to give individualized learning. So I researched so that my research can be able to show that with technology, a child can be able to work on their own so that a teacher takes a backseat a little, and also give a child with special needs autonomy to learn on their own. We are moving from teacher-centered education to learner-centered education. And technology is the way to go. Technology can be able to allow a child with disability to learn better, to learn faster, to learn to be able to manipulate the gadgets better, and to be able to remove the fear of learning. Even playing with the gadgets is part of learning, and it's something that children with disabilities do not get. So for me, I would love to do more in this area, but not only that, I actually intend to go out and research more on what the technologies. Right now, I am trying to work in a manner in research that I find out which specific technologies can be able to empower our children, especially in the areas of hearing loss, speech difficulties, because those are areas that people are not aware, so that we are able to augment these students and families and their children, so that they can be able to move a little forward, especially now that we are in the era of technology. Thank you, and back to you now.
Thank you, Becky. We are living in the era of COVID-19, and one may want to find out whether COVID-19 has affected people with special needs in any way.
Thank you, Naom, for that question. COVID-19 is new to all of us. It's what we have experienced in this year. But I think very many things, I need to say that everything that happens to you and me, because now we don't fall in the bracket of persons with disability. If, for example, if you are affected, let's say, for example, I give a percentage, you feel that you are affected, probably 10% or 30% of your life has been affected. It means that persons with disability have been affected twice or 3 times, whatever the effect is. I would give an example of using a story without mentioning names. In about 3-4 months ago, in March, through an organization that we partner with for placing students with disability in the work area, we placed a boy who is deaf from Kenyatta University in a very good organization. And he started working excitedly. But when the president announced that there was a closure of institutions, you are aware that even employees also closed up their organizations. Yes. When this organization closed up, it closed up temporarily, but they forgot to communicate to this boy because I think it was the boy told me it was a phone call. He didn't hear what they said because it was, I think, a WhatsApp link. They were all linked and they talked. He didn't hear because no emails were written. So this boy, when he asked somebody what have they said, the person only communicated that they have closed the organization. But actually what he didn't know is that the organization closed doors to the outside clients, but remained open to the clients who would work from home. So this boy, out of that message he got, decided to go to his rural area. And that was around April now. So this month, the organization called me and asked me where the boy is. And I told them the last time we placed him in your organization, they said he has never reported to work online. He was supposed to continue working online. So I went looking for this boy using WhatsApp, texting, and he told me I'm at home because work closed. You think that kind of communication? So this boy has just lost the job because the organization is calling it ignorance. So that is just one example. And you and I also know because, like, for example, the gadgets you and I now are using now, you need a laptop or a smartphone to be able to do what we are doing now, or for these students or workers, employees with disabilities to communicate with their other employees. These gadgets now do not come cheaply. Nobody was anticipating COVID-19. So as a result of that, nobody had put some money somewhere so that you can be able to buy a smartphone or a gadget like this one, like a laptop. It means that many persons with disability then have lost their jobs. If they have not lost their jobs now, they do not know even to handle these gadgets if they are having them. And probably they do not have resources to buy these gadgets. Staying at home has been another issue, and there's a lot of evidence-based research, even here in Kenya, that there's now a lot of gender-based violence in the homes. When the mummies go to vent for their families, they are likely, or they left children with disability at home because before they would leave them at school. Because in Kenya, schools are both feeding homes and they are also safe homes. But now if children with disability are being left behind for mother to go to vent, it means that it is likely that the persons who have been abused more are persons with disability. And when the homes have had more members of families living together, then the space at home has become much smaller for persons with disability, because now even in homes, it is like survival for the fittest. There's probably less food, there are lesser resources, and persons with disability, I have said, probably play in the second league in most homes. It means that the challenges that they have gotten have become more. And again, when every form of communication is in form of speech, then how are persons with hearing loss getting their information? And when it comes to interpretation services, because most of the interpreters they had now were found in educational institutions, who is interpreting for them at their homes? And if the interpreters need to be linked with them at their homes, then again, we go back. We need this technology. We need these gadgets. We need these softwares so persons with disability can be able to continue with their life. So you can see the kind of challenges that they are facing, and the challenges probably are likely to be, their challenges are likely to be more magnified with COVID-19. Back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing to the fore those challenges. I am sure that if there was time, with your passion in the area of special needs, you would continue talking and talking and talking, and you would continue learning and learning and learning. Now, outside special needs, outside education matters, and outside your professional life, what are your interests even as we come to the end?
Thank you, Naom, for that question. It's an interesting one. Thank you. I'll try to summarize it. Now, I'm passionate. Interestingly, I'm very passionate about boys, and I will let you know why. I teach in the university, and I see a young boy walk in the university. And within a short time, I'll find him walking with maybe his homemates, like 5, 6 of them. And within a short time, I watch him. Maybe he started missing classes. He has started, sometimes they want to talk back at teachers. Sometimes they don't want to participate in assignments. Sometimes they want to start doing mostly things that they weren't doing before, but they're not even sure where they're doing them. So about 6 years ago now, I made up my mind, maybe I need to do something about it. And I actually started small in class. I once told the student after class, I said I would like to start a group for students where we can meet after class and discuss other issues that are not class. Now, in a class of 400 students, everybody put up their hand. This surprised me. I thought I would walk out with about 10 students, but every student put up their hand. And that is what gave birth to what we call Kenyatta University Special Students Organization, KUSNES. Kenyatta University Special Needs Education Students, KUSNES. KUSNES is an organization that I do not run. I only patron. What the students do, they choose each other to be leaders, and I work with the students together with the department and other departments to be able to talk about, now it was not for boys, but it became mixed. We have both boys and girls. We do mentorship now of day-to-day life. I would invite a professional like you, and you can come through the request for the kind of professional they want. I could give an example. They have asked for someone to talk to them about HIV. They have asked me to bring nurses to talk about conditions. They have asked me to, I've even brought pastoral people in charge of pastoral counseling to talk about spiritual needs. I have brought to them psychologists. I have brought to them career people like lawyers. And you might ask why students with special needs would want a lawyer. It's not easy to work in special needs if you do not have the know-how in law, because you really need to know your jurisdiction in special needs. When you enter a family and you want to help them, you really need a lawyer to explain, do you have a right to enter that family? Do you have a right to go and report that they are not treating their child well? Do you, how to go or where to go? So that is what I do in the university when I'm not teaching. I work with KUSNES. Besides KUSNES, I've also started a baby known as Walking Through the Doors. Walking Through the Doors now, that one is only for boys now. For a long time, there has been a cry that everyone is talking about girls. So I thought, why can't I do something about the boys? Walking Through the Doors is a baby organization that welcomes any boy who is in the university or leaving the university. And I actually do the same thing. We talk about life. We talk about girls. We talk about life in the university. We talk about our parents. We talk about our pains, our joys. We talk about the future, which is unknown. We talk about what we're having difficulty in the classrooms. Sometimes I do a peer tagging. I can take a weak student in the group and tag them with a student who is good in a lesson, and they can be able to support them. If a student is not doing well economically, we try to put up a little resources using our migrant resources so that we are able to assist them, even by simple things now like underwear. Simple things like oil to apply or a full scalp. Simple things like a pen. We have students in the university who are very needy now, very needy. We're able to talk about, examinations come now in the university and a student tells me, I don't have a pen. I don't have a pay in the small room I live in. They have closed the room, they have padlocked it. So sometimes we're able to assist each other so that this student can they attend class. But I do not only do that, I follow students now from first year to fourth year. So students are answerable to me in performance. We agree. We look at your performance. I counsel students together with a psychology colleague, and it's a team. We are about a team of 6 of us. It is me, Isanda. We have a psychologist. We have a banker in the group that is in opening, going through the open doors. We also have a colleague in auditing. It's all on voluntary basis. We have a social worker. we also have a counselor, so that we just go out, let's say twice in a month, and we're able to do that. But we've had interesting things about the group. I've seen students be steady in class. I think that's what I wanted. I've seen students bring their parents to meet me, and their parents have told me, I'm glad that my son met you or my daughter met you. We're able to know when a student is not feeling well and support them so that until they feel well. We're able to give counseling to students so that they can be able to enjoy their stay in the university. But the best of all now is we've been able to place more than 21 students in jobs, including this one that lost his job. It's unfortunate. He was a member of both Kusnes and going through the doors. But students have been able to be placed in either teaching or in better careers, including outside the country. I think we've placed about 4 students. So now that's what I do. I also take care of my family. I have a family. I have a husband, and I have 3 grown-up girls. I take care of them, and I'm proud to be a mother. It's something I cherish, and probably that is why I mentor boys. I need a family of boys, so that is why I've added to them very many brothers. Back to you. Thank you.
Very interesting, very, very interesting. So great eye opener, very informative, very inspiring. And I know, Becky, you and me can go on and on and on from Kusnes, that's Canada University Special Needs Association, to now going through the doors. I'm sure there is a lot more that you have behind your sleeve, and in the course of time, you will bring it out. What are your closing words, Becky?
Thank you, Naom. Thank you very, very, very much. First of all, I would love to thank you and Jaslika for giving me this opportunity to talk about myself and be able to talk about what I do is something that I cherish. I think I would want to talk mostly about us persons with disability. I've been asked this question very many times. Why disability? When I started disability or joined we call it a club. When I joined the disability club, very many people around me now were very uncomfortable, including my family. They were very uncomfortable, not my immediate family, but my mother and my brother. My mother in particular was disappointed. She was disappointed in the manner that you cannot go to school, study well, graduate, work, and then leave that and start doing something very different. But I would like to address those like my mom. Thank God my mother now is very, very comfortable. Now she refers clients to me. My mother tells everyone what I do. She says, you have a child like that? Yes, let me call my daughter. So I know that she has a change of attitude. I would love to let everyone listening to me know that disability is not even as rare as people think. Disability is a condition that is with us. Disability is like an hourglass now. You can see it full, or you can see it empty, or you can see it halfway. So depending on what you want to see is what you see. In Africa now, we say disability does not affect you until it comes home. Meaning that nobody cares about it until it comes home. But for me now, I decided to break that. It didn't come home. I thank God that I do not have a child with disability, and that is, or a relative, that is what made me to study disability. I studied disability and passionate about working with people with disability because I know that it is a dignifying thing to do. It is a dignifying thing to do because I have had the favor of doing very many things because I have capabilities. Meaning that if my friend's son or daughter or a colleague or a mother or father or anyone in the village has a disability, I have an obligation to support them so that they can be able also to achieve their desires. And because I know that I can be able to do that, then that is what I have been doing, and it was what I would love if people were out there to be able to support persons with disability. Now, persons with disability do not need tokens from us. They do not need silver and gold. Persons with disability need an equal opportunity to be able to do what they can be able to do. And we can be able to testify that a number of them are exceptionally talented than some of us. So if we can be able to give them this opportunity, for example, if they're at your place of work, let do, but put support systems that can be able to support them. If they come to your classroom now and my classroom, teach them the way you teach other students, but support them in a manner that they can be able to learn what the other students are doing. So my plea as we finish is that let us stop giving tokens and let us stop being sympathetic to persons with disability and instead be empathetic and instead support them so that they can be able to achieve things on their own independently. That is what I would be able to say. Others, I would like to thank you because this is a good opportunity for me to talk about an area that I love very much, but also giving me an opportunity that the audience can be able to know something about special needs education. Back to you, Naomi. Thank you.
I totally agree with you, Becky, with your closing remarks, because I've heard it said several times that disability is not inability. Thank you so much for that conversation. It was a great eye-opener, as I said. You have a huge wealth of information in regard to special needs. And as I said earlier on, Dr. Becky Isanda is one of the few experts in the area of disability from this part of East Africa. And I thank her so much for amplifying the voice of people with disability. Thank you so much and be blessed. Good evening.
Thank you, Naomi. I enjoyed being interviewed by you. I hope you learned. And thank you very much. I look forward to continue working with you. And thank you, Jaslika, for giving me this opportunity. And thank you very much. And thank you very much, Dr. Sheila Wamayo, for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.